Hello, everyone. Welcome to Viral Poetry Series. I don't know if anybody is in the chat. Please let me know if you can hear me and you can see well. Just want to make sure all is working for you on your end. I'm going to leave this. You know what? I'm going to turn this jazz off so we don't get in trouble. I got a feeling that'll be cut out on the video that ends up on YouTube. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Viral Poetry Series. This is February edition, February 2021. You're supposed to have flying cars by now. I just want to point that out. So we have a really good show tonight. I'm really excited about who we have. Is going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be, before I tell you who, I just want to tell you a couple things. Tonight we'll probably have a lot of conversation about feelings. Here, feelings. There's if you don't know, unfortunately, I lost my cat this past Sunday. She was over 15, and I'm gonna do my best not to lose my shit tonight. So if you see a grown man cry tonight, I apologize. But so I've been trying to figure out different coping skills and mechanisms, and I used to be able to use writing and poetry and fiction and all those things to help kind of cope with some of that stuff. But lately, that hasn't been working. So we're going to talk tonight to our two guests about those sorts of things. Our first guest is, I'll bring her on in a minute or two, but our first guest is going to be my awesome niece, Eliza Greenfield. She has been sharing some of her writing with me lately, and it's fantastic. It's so good. So I'm excited for you to hear that and to also talk to her. Our other guest is a wonderful compliment to her. I had a podcast a while back called "The People in My Neighborhood." He was a guest on there, and out of the 8 episodes that I made, the 2 of them that were my favorite, and his was one of them. The content of that podcast was amazing. Our guest is Ernest Nelson. He's a San Diego-based poet and teacher, historian, artist, guitarist now. I mean, there's really nothing he doesn't do. So I've known Chris for a few years at least. I 4 or 5 at least. But he's probably one of the most genuine, and he's just a really good human being. He's what we all should really strive to be. So I'm looking forward to you getting to hear and talk to him. Well, you won't be able to talk to him. I do, because I'm luckier than you, at least tonight. Yeah, I'm looking forward to you guys getting to hear him, because he's just a good person. So a couple things, other things before we get started. If you have music, if you write music or play music or do any of that stuff, and you want to hear it on here, I'm always looking for music to open and sometimes close a show. So I would be happy to play your music. Just letting you know. Tonight we listened to a little bit of jazz that I will probably have to cut out because it's copyrighted. Get it. But if you have stuff that you want to play, let me know. I'd be glad to play it. If you see me looking down, I have my questions on my phone. I'm not checking Facebook. Not all the time. So if that's happening, that's what's going on. One other thing for people watching, I'm actually kind of curious about this. For anybody watching, I see Marjorie's in there. Can you let me know if the video is choppy? Because I watched the playback of it a little bit ago, of the last one, and I noticed that my video is choppy, and my computer sucks. Like, it's really bad. So I think I'm just doing too much with like the video and the microphone and all that. So I'm gonna have to come up with something new. So just let me know if it's choppy. That what you're seeing live is kind of glitchy and choppy. I hope not, because I'll figure something out. So I'll just have to look like Max Headroom for a little. Ooh, that showed my age, didn't it? I don't know if anyone remembers Max Headroom. Just a tad choppy, very okay. Thanks, Marjorie. I appreciate that. I'll figure something out. I've got a couple of ideas, but I don't have any money. But I'll figure it out. I'll come up with something. In the meantime, we'll be all right. You'll be all right. So the other thing that I wanted to mention, and this has happened, I'm just getting out in front of it, because this happens every single show. Whenever I switch to the guest, there's going to be a moment where I can't hear him. I don't know why. It lasts sometimes 5 seconds, sometimes it lasts 30 seconds, sometimes it's a minute. Super annoying. So what we're going to do is I'm going to switch to them, and then I'm going to talk for a minute or so before I bring them in to start talking. That way, because if I say hello, I can't hear them, but you all watching can. And it's kind of disarming. So that's what's going to happen. So Eliza and Chris, when I bring you in, they'll see your face. I can talk for a minute so I can start to hear you at some point. So there's that. Let's see. What else? What else are we going to do? Yeah, so each person is also going to have a book recommendation. Words are hard. So stick around for that. Eliza's got one, Chris has one, and I'm going to make sure that I share mine at the end because I completely forgot last reading. So I apologize about that. And it was a really good book too. But yeah, so there. All right, let's go ahead and let's get started. So I'm going to bring in Eliza and as soon as I do, Lightstream says it's attempting to reconnect, but I think that's my computer because computers. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring Eliza in. Again, Eliza is my very awesome niece. There we go. How are we doing? Okay, so Eliza, I hear you, which was expected. So if you're saying anything, unfortunately I can't hear you, but I'll get to hear you in a second. Okay. It looks like you may also be muted, so just want to make sure you check on that. So yeah. Again, Eliza is my niece. She is 15. I trying to remember 15 myself. I think that was 30 years ago, 31 years ago. It was an interesting time, to say the least. But I will say this, when I was 15, I was doing a ton of writing, a lot of poetry, in fact. So I wonder, and I'm going to ask Chris about this too, but I wonder if maybe that's sort of a normal thing for teenagers. Anyway, Eliza, I think I can hear you now. Would you like to say hello? Yay, I can hear you. Awesome. How are you, my wonderful middle niece?
I'm good. It's like 10 o'clock here, so I'm a little tired, but I'm good.
I promise I won't keep you long. We'll go ahead and get started here. I won't keep you up late because I know it's a school night, I assume, and you got to get up early for your screen time class, I bet. Oh.
What?
Okay. So, can you hear me?
Yeah. It's a little glitchy, but yeah.
A little good. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a weird platform. Anyway, so here's what we'll do. I'm going to go ahead and hide my camera and then go ahead and start reading. And when you're done, just let me know and I'll come back and we'll chat for a few minutes. Does that work?
Yeah. I have 2 poems today, if that's okay.
That's perfect. I look forward to it. Okay. Go. The floor is yours.
Okay. So the first poem I have is a poem I wrote about my older sister. Sometimes it's a little challenging with her just because she's 18 and, she's going to college soon. But here it is. Okay. Can we get closer? I want to be able to tell you everything and you the same for me. I miss you. I miss your laughs and your cries. I miss the stories you told me about Nick in college. I miss you. I miss your perfume and rap songs. Now can we get closer? I miss the way you yell at Mom for chewing too loudly and the daily rants of all the girls at your school. I miss you. Now can we get closer? Okay. And then my second poem is a poem that I just kind of randomly wrote. Like I wasn't feeling a certain way. I was just, I don't know, spontaneous. So it's called Tell Me About Your Stars. Tell me about your stars. Tell me how they teach you pain and how they teach you hurt. Tell me how they teach you gratefulness and how they teach you love. Tell me about your stars. Do they shine as bright as they used to? Do they still have the longing to be seen by a child in the darkest hours? Does the mother sky hug them close and comfort each and every one? Can you tell me about your stars? The trees reach up high to grab and bring them down to earth and reality, but oh no, your stars are too stubborn. Instead, they force the trees to feel as they feel, euphoric and light as a feather, so far from the earth, but still they are persistent to make you notice their own beauty and shine. Tell me about your stars, and I'll tell you about mine. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
Yes. That was so good. I you you first of all, I know what it's like to have an older sibling. And I may have written a poem or two about that, but those I won't share. So I know what it's like, and I think yours was it was gorgeous. It was beautiful, and it was great. And you actually shared the stars one with me before. Do you find that when you write, you're kind of you're inspired by certain things, or do you sometimes try to write just I'm going to write something and write it?
I think it's a mix of both. I think, you know, being home and just like in the state of where you're stuck, it's kind of hard to come up with inspiration. But sometimes I have those moments where it's like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I should write about this. Or, it all depends, I think. And yeah.
Is there a certain time of day that some of these things kind of do? Because I know you were out late looking at the stars when you wrote that one. Is there a certain
It's
time of a day that
usually
sometimes the
always at
inspiration
night.
strikes?
It's always at night.
Yeah,
Because that's like
it's
kind of,
interesting. I used to go ahead.
oh, it's kind of like the time to like, review, I guess, the day you had before and kind of think about what you're going to do the next day. So I usually stay up pretty late just going through random thoughts I had the day before.
That's that's really smart. That's a good idea. I was the very same way. A lot of my writing happened late at night, and sometimes, and it actually still happens every once in a while. My brain will wake me up at 3 in the morning, and I have to write. Like I can't get back to sleep if I don't write. Um, but what's weird is I've noticed as I've
Mhm.
gotten older. I'm curious to find out if this will happen with you. As I've gotten older, tend to be more creative really early morning now, like 6, 7 o'clock, and I'm not a morning person. I am super grumpy. But when I'm up, if I can shake those cobwebs off, I find that I'm really creative at that time. So I'm curious if that'll happen with you. Have you ever tried to write really early in the morning, like got up before you had to do anything like school and all that, and tried to write?
No, I mean, before being at home, I used to get up around 6:30, but now I'm getting up at 8, so I usually take that time to sleep in.
Smart, very smart, and
Yeah.
get it now while you can.
Hmm.
At some point, you're not going to get it. Um, So I want to ask one more question for you, and then I'll let you head out for the night. And I'm kind of curious: are you taught any poetry in any of your classes?
What? Sorry, say that again.
I'm curious if you're taught poetry in your classes.
Briefly, like very, very lightly. Like there's nothing. I mean, we usually only talk about poetry for a day and a half, and then we usually go into like some long, boring reading. Like we read about Romeo and Juliet, but I feel like everybody's, heard of that story, so it's kind of boring. But no, not really. I mean, I've always actually really liked poetry since I was in elementary school. Like, I had this one book from like Shel Silverstein. It was like, I just remember this one line and I couldn't figure it out what it meant, but it's like the crimson roads align at the end of the street. It's like, I don't know, but we're not
Mm.
really taught a whole lot about it, but I wish we were.
Well, first, I will say that Shakespeare's been around for hundreds of years, so that's probably why a lot of his stuff is, I wouldn't say overdone, but it's very out there. And it's unfortunate. Remember when we were, I really didn't get much poetry until I actually started college, um, and I could take poetry classes. So that's unfortunate that you're not able to learn certain poetry in your class. Are students, are you noticed when they do about it? Are other students interested in it?
Not really. I mean, there are certain classes that you can take that focus on writing. Like, there's a class that I'm taking next year, my sophomore year. It's called creative writing, and then there's also like journaling, or like you can take a journal class, and yeah, journalism. So, but I would
Well,
say,
I'm excited.
yeah,
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
not a lot of kids are very interested in poetry.
It's a medium, I think, for that age. I don't know. Some poetry is a little, it's what they call heady, where it's just a
Mhm.
little over the top with certain things,
My
and
mom says intense.
wonder. I wonder. Intense, yeah, yeah. It can be a lot. It really can. But there's some good stuff out there. I'm currently working on my third manuscript, actually, of micro poems, which is like basically around 20 words or less. And I feel like some of those might be a little more easy to digest for certain age groups or certain people even that aren't into poetry, because it's like you with that one single Shel Silverstein line. You spent time on that line trying to understand it. So um, I don't know. Maybe the wrong poetry is being taught.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember elementary schools and like learning about haikus and being confused and like taught the culture behind it, but we never really got super deep into like the poetry that's like not really shown a lot, like slam poetry or
Hmm.
just like poetry that shows some controversial topics.
Did you get to see the poet that read at the inauguration? And if so, what'd you
Yeah,
think?
I really liked her. I thought she was so cool.
Yeah, she really is. See? She's young, too. She's not much older than you. 5, 7 years older. Like
Yeah,
that's
she's
really, that was really cool to see.
yeah.
So, well, Eliza, or I won't call you Pisey. Eliza, I really appreciate you making time. I know it's late, and Pamela, I know you hear me. Thank you very much for allowing her to do this. That was very, very cool. And to your sisters, Ariel and Ava, uh, leave your sister alone.
She's probably
Leave her
sleeping
alone,
right now.
but also pick on her. Yeah. All right. All right. Cool. Um, well, again, thank you. I'm really, it's really good to see you. I miss you all, and I
Mhm.
hope that maybe this year, either you guys can come out here, or I can get back there, and we can hug each other
Yeah.
again because I miss that.
I love you. Thank you.
So I love you. All right, and that was my awesome niece. Yeah, she's, all my nieces are cool. So they're awesome. Ava's 18. She got early acceptance into the College of Charleston, which is pretty rad. So that's cool. And my other one, Ariel, she's super sweet and funny and quirky, and they're just all really good kids. I think and my parents did a good job. My mother and their mother did a very good job. My mom did a good job. Dad not so much, so I can't really say parents, but my parents. But anyway, my mom did a fantastic job. She did the best she could, and I swear she's, I don't know. I could speak the volumes about my mother. But anyway, that was awesome. I'm really glad that she was able to do that, and she was able to share some of her I don't think I've read that first one. I might have. I know she sent me that one. And I was blown away by that. So that was super cool. All right. So my computer is going haywire right now, but I just want to find out in the chat if everybody that's watching, if you can just kind of pop in, just let me know how everything's looking on your end, and how we're doing. That would be super helpful. We're going to now bring in the second guest, as I mentioned quite profusely earlier. He I don't know. He's one of my favorites. One of my favorites. So I'm gonna bring in Chris Ernest Nelson. Chris, again, I don't know if I'll be able to hear you when you first get in, so give me a second. Right, all right. I see it updating. I see it trying to update. Oh, I hear you. Do you hear me? Okay. Okay, good. I,
Thank
I,
you.
I
Thank you.
I think I appreciate you saying that. I also want to make sure though that you understand it's more than just an echo. I mean, one of the things that you provide is balance, because there needs to be one of the sayings that really upsets me, and I don't know why, but it really bothers me, is it is what I can't stand that saying, because it's never just what it is. There's always another side, good or bad. So I believe that even if there isn't an even balance, there needs to be both sides. So that's really one of the reasons I kind of wanted you to be here tonight, is because we oh wait, hold on. So they're saying hearing you. Chris, give me 1 second here. I don't know what's going on here with my system, but I am constantly attempting to reconnect. So give me a second, Chris, and we'll come back to you, because I just see a note from Marty that says that that you're not seen or heard. So give me 1 second here, Chris, because I can hear you, but we need other people to hear you. That's the point of you being here.
I also
Ted says
think
to
that
refresh. I will
kids
work on
today,
that in a second, but my thing
you
is
know, they
frozen.
don't really focus on
Let it go. Let it go. Sorry,
stuff that's like,
bad frozen joke. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna
I don't
refresh the
know, they're
screen.
mostly focused on
Let's
materialism
see what
and
happens. Yeah.
stuff they can have. But I don't know, I've always like,
All right, Chris. I can hear you. I want to find out if other people can hear you. I see you on there now. Looks like uh, I was in there a second ago. Did you hear that too, Chris? All right. Chris, can you hear me?
I hear you. I hear you, Eliza.
Boy, there's
Well, I was a teacher for 27 years. I'm retired now. And I used to share poetry with my history class. Can you imagine? Oh, yes, I would read the poetry, especially Walt Whitman. He wrote some wonderful poems, good history poems.
all right. So, Chris, we are now live, back in with the people, with the fine folks. I can see in here now.
That's
Yes,
good news.
gee, what happened there, but it happens. It happens. So people can hear you, they can see you. We are good. Let's go ahead. Do me a favor, really quick. I don't think people heard your opening comments. So if you can, please repeat that, because I think it's important that stuff is heard.
You're lucky because once you learn how to learn, once you know how to read, you can discover what you want to find yourself. You're no longer left alone. So you have that power yourself. So take advantage of that. What I was saying was I was so pleased that your uncle, that Adam, invited me to share the screen really with you this evening, because there's really our young poets are our lifeblood. They're the voice of the future, and the spirit that you bring to this craft is really reassuring to an old guy like me, because we poets who have been around a while rely on you to keep the voice, to keep the words moving. Poetry is a
Chris,
magic language. As long as we have lived together, it has conveyed the mystical wonder, the sacred reverence, the burning passions of humanity. The first suitor spoke to his lover in rhyme. The shaman's drumming chant summoned the animal spirits to the hunt. The temple priests revealed the will of the gods in verse, and sorcerers opened doors to enchanted realms with arcane incantations. The magic language.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. All right. So, um, I don't know what you were saying just now. I mean, I know I understood what you were saying, but I don't know what it was in reference to. But
Yeah.
I appreciate
Oh,
it.
the
I think
poetry
you and
is
Eliza were having a
a language.
conversation that I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry about that.
So, no, that's okay. I'm glad you two are talking. I'm glad you two are talking.
Oh, well,
It's
yes. Here
amazing.
we have.
I want to. I just wanted to kind of make sure that people get to hear, what mentioned up front about Eliza's generation of
Oh, yes.
just
My
her generation.
quote
Yeah.
that I said that she is the voice of the future, an exciting future, whereas I represent an echo of a comfortable past, of a serene past. And you were,
Was it comfortable or serene?
pardon?
Was it comfortable or serene?
Well, we'll find out from the poetry, won't we?
I guess we will. I guess we will. I've read and heard your poetry, so it sounds very comfortable and serene, generally speaking. There are a couple lines in there that don't, but I think that's poet. So,
That's right.
um,
You
okay,
have to touch every bone in the body, every emotion, every part of the spirit.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Now that we seem to have you back, we're back on track here. This is great. I'm going to step aside. I'm gonna let you read for a little bit. Read 5, 10 minutes, however long.
Mhm.
When you're done, just let me know. I'll come back in and we'll chat about more deep conversations.
Super. All righty.
All right.
Well, I'll work a little variety here. And I am Chris Ernest Nelson, and this is Still There. It's all still there somewhere. all the bits and pieces of a lifetime that seem so jumbled and uneven, all the moments that once mattered are now faded and carried away by ambivalent time. It's all still there, hidden in places, in songs, in the smell of the wind, and in the sun that remembers every summer of our youth while we were so content to forget to consider its persistent importance. It's all still there, waiting for a face in the crowd, a voice on the phone, or a dream that wakes you in the early hours before the curtain of distractions falls upon feelings that stay awake while the day sleeps. It's all still there somewhere, all the laughter of understanding, all the confidence of knowing that friendship is the most important thing a life can make. And it's still there, though you were gone. Thank you for listening. I don't generally explain why I write a poem. I like the poem to do the work for me, and it gives you something to think about. This poem is called Longing to be Loved. The fire raced along the roof of the buildings, and punches of blazing heat hit so hard they staggered to stay standing. The wind twisted in the air, and silhouetted against the raging maw, sparks danced around dark, faceless figures. There was more sadness in the terror than in the rage, and even in the confusion of the volatile company there were waves of forlorn smoke called to confuse the ghosts of accusing ash, things who would not be appeased by the generous offer of fire. Just beneath the siren's looping howl, as the running stopped just long enough to breathe, a pleading voice slowly chanted the words of a painful memory. There is a lonely child somewhere deep in our character who is longing to be loved, who would do anything to be loved, who would destroy the world to be loved. And while you're adjusting yourself, Adam, I'll throw in one more. This is the title poem from my book. You see it over my shoulder here. My opus vitae. Everything I've written up until the end of 2019 is in that book. Here we are. This is The Harvest. Grandpa's hands were rough and kind. The color of the earth he turned. His hair as white as tousled clouds to soften the landscape of his years. His ancient face was furrowed like the broken sod anticipating seed, his countenance deep with the wisdom one sees in the eyes of animals. He held the wheat seeds in his fist as if they were golden promises. He cast them to the wind with a wave to the wild, willing fields. With his beaten boot, he folded them into the soil like babes in their beds. The soft sun would be their blanket, the rain a lullaby to season sleep. Grandpa believed in the future. He trusted the seeds. He loved the earth. Such were his holy trinity, and the open sky his place of worship. Angels stood at his side while he worked. They sat on his bed while he slept, and they carried him to heaven when he died. Grandpa lived for the harvest, for the sheaves brought home to the barn, for the bread broken at the table, and for prayers of thanksgiving. Take a break and answer some questions.
I, I there's I don't know what it is about. I don't know what it is. All right. I'm going to get a little effusive here. I apologize. I don't know what it is about your poetry that really it's I can't explain it. It's like I don't want to say I have a connection to it. I feel like I really understand it. Like I feel it. Like
Yeah.
if people said to explain it back, I don't think I could, but I feel like I understand it.
Uh,
So thank you
you
for
know,
that. I appreciate that.
I learned as a teacher, there's only one way to a person's mind, really. It's through their heart.
Mm.
I bet Eliza understands.
I thought it was through their stomach.
Well,
Yeah.
that depends on your mama's
Well,
cooking.
you yeah, I guess so. My mom's pretty good. You've said to me, we've talked a bit about you being a teacher, and also I've sort of vented about my sometimes dislike of Noam Chomsky for this reason.
Mhm.
You talked about it a little bit, where you said your poetry, you like to sort of allow it to kind of either speak for itself or allow the listener or reader to interpret it their way.
Yeah.
And I there I'm curious. I think I know your answer to this because I'm pretty sure I've asked you about this. But for people that really want to say, hey, "Can you explain this to me?" What is your usual or typical response to that?
I am happy to talk about it when prompted. But the beauty of all art is the thing that isn't said. Great art has open spaces where you can invest your own feelings, your own experience, your own understanding. And the more I speak about it outside of the piece itself, the more I constrain your own thoughts, the more I limit your capacity to make it your own.
And that's kind of what I think is a real important part of poetry. And I think people sometimes may not I think a light bulb goes off when people identify their own selves with something with poetry that they read. They go, "Oh, this is
Yes,
supposed to do with poetry. Let me break this down and try to get the definition of this." Like it's more to me, poetry is more how am I connecting to that?
I want you to come back. I want you to spend time with me and we'll take a journey together. The journey that these words and this collection of words creates. It's an architecture that we can visit and we can spend time together in.
Yes, no, I agree. There are times though where I wish people would just pick a damn side. But I agree with you. I understand what I'm starting to understand it a little more as I get older. Like I get it. Like and as I write more as well. Like that's I'm starting to
Yeah,
understand that
yeah,
some.
yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question. Because you well, I will at some point to go back and listen to the episode that you and I made for the People in My Neighborhood
Mhm.
podcast because you told a story that still breaks me every time I listen to this episode about taking care of your grandmother.
Yes, yes.
And and I'm God, I'm trying to keep my shit together right now. Um, I, you have a wide array of skills, creative skills. You paint, you write,
Mm.
you play guitar, you do all these things, and I'm curious if you use these times of stress, and if so, when they don't work, what do you do?
Do you mean when my skills don't meet my needs, alleviating my stress? Is what you're asking me?
Yeah, yeah. Are they not helping you? Are they not helping you
Absolutely.
when they normally do?
Because in my work, in my poetry, I teach myself to be myself. You will find that oftentimes my poetry runs in a journey and sometimes into some very dark places. But before I end, I redeem myself. I redeem my reader. I give you the relief, the release, the escape, the answer to the trouble that was discussed earlier in the poem. The one about the fire, that's really, if I'll break my rule and tell you, longing to be loved was written during those the early days of we call them demonstrations, riots that were raging across America, and I was internalizing that into my own spiritual understanding of what was it to be a person, not part of the mob or the group or the crowd, but what was it in the person? What was it in the person that led them to break the window, to light the fire? What was it inside of that person? There's something happening, and that's what that poem was really all about. So if you read it again, sometimes it's in the book, I think. So check it out. It's longing to be loved. But there is a solution in the end because it gives the answer. It gives the answer. We hear about the burning streets. We hear the desperation. But then we understand, a lonely child, somewhere deep in it's inside of us. It's not just this other person. Everything has to deal with us or it doesn't have any meaning. And this is the lesson that we take from that experience that others are having. Somewhere deep in our character who is longing to be loved, who would do anything to be loved, who would destroy the world to be loved. That's powerful stuff. That touches me deeply and helps me understand.
In your poem, "Nothing to Fix," the last two lines of that poem are what have actually balanced me at times.
Well, I'd be happy to share that.
Do you have? Yeah, can you? Because that one.
Page 69, I'll find it easily.
Yeah, right. But that one, like those lines at the they explain a lot, and in such a subtle way that it just brought. When I think about them, they just bring me comfort.
Well, let me share that.
There's no. Yeah, please do.
Nothing to fix. So much left unsaid. So much unresolved. So many heartbreaks unacknowledged. So many hopes undiscovered. So many sleepless nights with uneasy dreams. So many memories that happened and others that didn't. Weave the synapses of a dissatisfied mind. If there was any love at all, there is nothing to fix. If there was no love at all, there is nothing to fix.
There's so much. It feels like a hammock. Like it's well, in the end, it's the same.
Yes.
Like it's the same thing in the end.
Did you like that, Eliza? Did you like that one? Yes. Be true to yourself. Yes. Just have fun. Have fun with it too. Have fun with it. Adam, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm glad you brought her in for that because I that just goes to almost prove my point even more that it's a universal understanding of something, and it's that one. I don't know. I'm glad that I not only have it in print, but I also have it in audio on that podcast because I don't know. There's something about that particular one. So when these things,
words,
no problem. When these things though don't work, when you aren't able to find solace, do you you sit down and paint, or you sit down and play guitar, and when you're done, there's still something inside that you weren't satisfied. Like, do you try something new, or do you
let me
push
explain.
through? Like, what do you do?
Now I get your question. There is a certain level of dissatisfaction that's essential. The teetering on the edge of oblivion for an artist is a generator. It generates so much of what we do in a creative spirit. But ultimately, I am always find my peace. I practice it so often that I allow myself moments of I like to call it ennui because depression sounds so serious. But
it's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, I get you, Adam. When I'm feeling down, I recognize that my feelings are there as my friends, not as my enemies. They're there to teach me something about who I am, to give me an opportunity to actually be more vigorously alive. But the real reason they're there is to remind me that if there was any love at all, there's nothing to fix. We're having a beautiful experience. The love that we have, the love for our friends, the love for our pets, the way you had for dear Stella, those things are permanent. They don't disappear. Those are our treasures, and they go beyond our own lifetimes. So no, I don't usually end up in a negative place. I find my way to that place of peace, and it's because I recognize these feelings. Even the feeling of terror is a friend, and God knows I've been there.
Have you always been like that?
No. This is how you get to be a happy old man. You embrace that experience, and you come to terms with it, and recognize that this experience is what makes you. It is the thing that gives you your unique attributes, the qualities that are special. And if you can come out of this game, out of this life, out of this experience, rejoicing, that's a choice. And I choose to come forth rejoicing, even though I can stop along the way and look at all the terrors and tragedies that are abundant around us. We have the pandemic, we have all the social unrest, we have all this other stuff that can really be depressing. Oh, try social media if you want to get depressed. But this is not where I dwell. This is not where I live. My journey is through my feelings to myself, to my place of peace, to my natural state, which is a place of rejoicing.
This is why I wanted to have you on tonight, because I needed to hear that. I've been talking to a good friend of mine, a very close friend of mine. His name is Troy. He lives out in Colorado. I've known him at least half my life, and he and I were talking yesterday, the day before, and he said something I hear a lot of people say, and I've not to sound like Diogenes myself, but I have a lot of problems with things people say. But he, it's the whole time flies thing, and I struggle with that because I believe that if you stay in the moment, time won't feel like it flew.
Mm-hmm.
And know this because with Stella, it was 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure that every moment I got where every
what a blessing.
I would be at home. I'd have my phone, or I'd be looking at my having a show. She would want to get up on my chest. I would immediately put all that down and spend that moment with her, because I knew that at some point I wasn't going to get that opportunity anymore. And that's why, for me, time didn't fly. The 15 years felt like 15 years, which is why it feels so freaking heavy that she's gone. But time didn't fly. That was a fantastic 15 years, and it felt like 15.
I hear you,
So
Adam. Love and Eliza, this is important to recognize when you're young because love can be such a tornado of feelings. But love is the one thing that really counts. And if you dedicate yourself to giving it with all of your power, there's no room for anything else. And that is what transforms your life. This is what will takes away the sense of hopelessness, the sense of grief, is that I have loved as much as I possibly know how to love. That's a treasure. When I tell you, I used to
it
tell
really is. I'm discovering.
Eliza, let me tell her. I used to tell young people this, and they always give me this look. I would say, love is a one-way street, and it may take a lifetime to figure that out. But when you do, everything will change. All of the experience you've had in your lifetime, the color will change, the perspective will change because it will make a different kind of sense to you. Love is giving. It's not a bargain that you make a deal with someone. I'm going to give you 10 units of love, but I want 10 units back. And if I don't get 10 units, I'm going to raise hell. Right? You know how that works. You may have heard that. You may have
I've tried that.
Yeah, you have seen that. Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
10.
That's a really hard lesson to learn. That's and I don't know. Maybe it was a hard lesson for me to learn. I don't know. I think though I might have been. I was kind of taught that by my dad. Because it was very like I'll do this for, but you do this for me in return, kind of a thing.
Yes. Yes.
And I think
the saddest question in the world is, do you love me?
That's how love works. There. Hold on a second, Chris, if you can hear me. Well, if anyone's in the chat, I'm not sure what may have happened here, so I don't know if I lost Chris somewhere along the way, but that was it was a great talk. I'm glad we got to talk to. I don't know what happened to Chris. That's too bad. 'Cause I wanted to do things. Marjorie, Ted, good to see you. Can you let me know if you can see anything in the chat here? Yeah, it really did overwhelm Twitch, didn't it? Gosh, see that? Love very powerful. Love very powerful. All right, I see my mom. Mama G is in the house. We seem to have lost Chris, unfortunately. So I don't. Well, video of Chris. Let's put it that way. Chris is very alive and well. So hopefully we can get him back before we really wrap up here. But Eliza, I don't know. I completely forgot to ask you for your book recommendation. So can you tell people what your book recommendation is? That's an old school book. That's been around for a little while, hasn't it? Yeah. So you like that book? What do you like about it? What are you connecting with it?
Hearing Chris saying those words just reminds me so much of Maury and everything about love, and reminds me of my family. I mean, we're not perfect. I mean, I struggle with anxiety, but I think books like that and poets like Chris just, it's really nice.
Yeah, yeah. There seems to be a string of that sentiment in a lot of poetry, and you hear it a lot in Chris's poetry. So,
Mhm.
and I'm glad you're able to connect with that. So, thank you very much, Eliza, again for sharing your book. I appreciate that. So, unfortunately, Chris is not available. I don't know what happened, to Chris. That's sad. That's sad. But I'm glad you all got to hear and you got to hear us talk because Chris is an amazing individual. His poetry is brilliant. His mind is so wise. Is back? Okay, bring him back in here. Chris, come back to us. Chris, come back.
Can you see me?
There you are. Hello, Chris. Can you hear me?
So I can hear you.
We just transcended this
I was reading
conceptual field
poems.
before our very eyes.
I Can you hear me?
Well, Chris, I see you talking, but this is my computer. I can't hear you. But give me a second because we're gonna hear you in a second, and I will know what your recommendation is. So, um, I'm gonna keep talking here for a second. Uh, let's see. I don't know what's. I don't know if people can hear me. I hope they can. I don't know if they can see me or hear me, but yeah. So yeah. So I'm glad we got to hear from actually both Chris and Eliza tonight. Uh, it's a pretty special event, and we had really. I don't want to say contrasting um, poetry, but it was very complimentary, and it was very nice. So, Chris, give me 1 second here. I'm gonna try this again and see if this works. I'll get you in here. I don't know what's going on. This is a bummer. Chris, can you do me a favor?
Yes,
In
sir.
the chat area, can you please type in your book recommendation so I can let people know?
I brought.
Yes, that's right. This is
Yes.
the you can probably see it.
This is the first memoir
Hold
of.
on, friends. We're gonna get this because I want him to say it.
Yeah.
So, really quick, Chris's book. Okay, then here's audio. Chris, do me a favor. I'm gonna
Yes.
shut up and you start talking about the book
Well,
because they can hear you. I can't. So
this
you
is
do
the
your thing.
first volume of Barack Obama's memoirs of his life and his presidency. The first volume here begins in his youth and talks about his struggle, his political activity when he was in college, his campaign for the White House, his early years in the White House, and it's a fabulous read and gives you an opportunity to feel the personality of this man and his genuine qualities. So yes, pick up A Promised Land by Barack Obama. That's my recommendation.
Okay. Looks like you're done talking. I couldn't hear you. My computer's terrible.
Yeah.
Now, for someone that As a podcast producer, this is embarrassing. I need better equipment. That's it. I just need better equipment. I need to make more money so I can buy better equipment. That's straight up what it is. All in the chat, can you all hear me? Just want to make sure that I'm being heard and I don't look like I'm talking to nothing. So I hope you all can hear me. Yeah, looks like you can all hear me. So Chris's book, I want to read that one. I saw that one. Okay, thank you. I'm heard. Whew, good. I saw that in the bookstore yesterday. I picked it up. It was heavy. It was very heavy. It was thick and it looked intense. But I think I'm gonna have to stay away from politics for a little while because I think I've had enough. I just need a break. It's a lot. But that book is probably an important book. So we'll just leave it at that. Good book recommendations tonight. They're really good ones. These are good ones. So before we get to mine, I just want to say, actually, you know what? Let's just do mine now. Let's get out of the way because I'll forget like I did last time. So I picked up this book a month or two back. I'm finally getting around to it. This book is called Exhalation by Ted Chiang. It's a bestseller. It's about 8 or 9 short stories in this book. And it's there's a lot of, I don't want to say sci-fi. I don't want to say fantasy. It's borderline really interesting stuff. A perfect example, actually, I wouldn't say perfect, but a comparison might be Haruki Murakami, and how he his run is very fantastical. It's really interesting stuff. The difference is that these are very allegorical. There's a meaning behind these stories, and they're deep and they're powerful. Some stories are 5 pages, some are 100, and from what I understand, that's but these stories are amazing. So Ted Chiang, Exhalation, pick it up, is a fantastic book. You won't regret it. They're wonderful stories. All right, got out of the way. I won't have to fret for another month about me forgetting a book recommendation. The next reading is the first reading in March. I didn't write down the date, my bad, but it's the first Wednesday in March. So keep an eye out for that. I don't have any guests lined up, but I have a couple people in mind I might reach out to. I see Anthony Rodriguez is in the chat, so I may be reaching out to him because it has been a long time since I've heard him to do some lines. So I might not do some lines as in Coke, but do some lines as in like poetry. Just wanted to clarify that. Anyway, so I'll have a couple guests. I'll make sure I post that as soon as possible. But again, that is the first Wednesday in March. We'll 7 p.m. show up a few minutes early. We'll check out some tunes, all that fun stuff. Again, if you have music, you write music, people that write music, and they want it to be played on this, I would happily play it to start the show. I would love to do that and share that. So let me know. Ted, thank you. March 3rd. Oh, right, because February is 28 days. Yeah, all right. Hey, math. So March 3rd, 7 p.m., I will guest TBD. I will let you know. Thank you to Ted Washington and Puna Press for giving us the space to do this sort of thing. It's pretty cool. I wish my computer was better. But this is really cool. It's a fun platform. It really is. It really is. There's a lot of weird stuff on Twitch, but there's a lot of cool stuff on Twitch as well. So thank you to Ted Washington and Puna Press for hosting this and just being awesome, because you guys are great. Puna Press Live also has other shows. Watch. Unsellable Beta is one. Lizzie Wan has a fantastic one. That's it's really good. What else we got? Gosh, there's a lot of good ones. Also, so make sure you follow make sure you follow the Puna Press Live page here on this Twitch thing. Sorry, I had a brain freeze for a second there. Check out all the shows. They were just fantastic shows. Also, check out other readings online if you can. There are a lot of really, really good. We now have the ability to see and hear people that we couldn't necessarily before. Lightbeat one with Lizzie Wan. Yes, thank you, Ted. I appreciate that. She talks to some amazing women, and I'm there. It's just it's so good to hear that. It's a really good show, and Lizzie's amazing. She's an amazing poet and writer, and just a great person. Anyway, all right, back to what I was saying. So check out all these things online. We have the ability now to really connect with other poetry events happening not only here in San Diego. My niece Eliza, she's out in Maryland. She's 3,000 miles away. So there's really great things all around, and now that we're home and online, check them out because they're really cool. Some of the things that here locally that happen in San Diego, some writers, some events that you can see online. Ted has his own. It's called Palabra. That's a really good one. It's the second and fourth Thursday. It's on Zoom, not here on Twitch, but it's on Zoom. Just follow them. Follow Puna Press. Follow Ted Washington's Low Tech Ted. Follow him on Facebook, Instagram. I don't know if they do Twitter. They might do Twitter. I don't know. But Instagram and Facebook, follow them there, and you'll find out when the shows are and who the poets are. The ones that Ted does for Palabra, those also open mic. So they have a featured poet and they have an open mic. So Eliza, check that one out because you can get on there and share with other people. So not just this show, but it's an open mic event. Those are really great readings. I can't wait to get back to doing those live because they were typically held at a fantastic art space. So I really look forward to getting back to that. What other ones? One of our previous guests, Gil Sotu, he has a fantastic reading. I think that's on every Tuesday. I don't know if he's still doing them every Tuesday, but those are beautiful readings as well. Gosh, I think Poets Underground, I think they're still doing theirs. I'm not sure, but there's a bunch out there. Just try to find these groups and connect yourself to poetry because right now, I think what we saw with the inauguration is that poetry really, really does have some value and some power in our world or in society right now. And I hear a lot of people that were saying, "Oh, that was really good. I'm surprised by that." And it's just like, yeah, that was very good. But the fact that you're surprised that exists is I think we've got from poetry a lot. So I would like to get back to that, share it with other people, and all that stuff. I know the old adage is the people that poet themselves, and I'm not sure I fully agree with that. I think there's a lot to be said about that. So anyway, poetry, words, good stuff. Go check it out. Let's see, is that it? I think that's it. Thanks for everybody. Thanks for sticking around. I really appreciate it, even through the technical difficulties. Until I get a new computer, this is what we got. So apologies, but it's free. Get over it. Let's see, what else? Eliza, thank you very much. You're brilliant and awesome as always. I love you so very much. I can't wait to see you and hug you as soon as possible. Chris, same thing, man. I love you. Can't wait to hug you. I miss you. We got together at the park a couple back with the others and Jack, and it was fantastic. I needed that, so hopefully we can do it soon. Everyone else out there, yes, please come to San Diego. We'll do it. We'll do this in person next time for sure. For sure. Yeah. So again, thank you for showing up. We will see you all March 3rd. Be safe out there. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. Get the damn vaccine. Just stop it. We need this. You'll be okay. Get a vaccine. Hug anybody that's nearby. Pet your pets. Tell them you love them. Stay in the moment. All that jazz. Have a good night. Love everybody. Talk to you soon.